Okay, so in the previous video we have seen how to create a post by invoking a post HTTP method, and now let's see how to update an existing post by invoking another HTTP method, which is fetch. Okay, so before that let's construct another function. Let's say update post, and it has request and response like this, and it will return this function over here. And let's go back to the post routes. Okay, now I can see there is a JSON object that is created before, so we don't need that file. Okay, anyway, so let's go to the post.routes, then let's import that function, and let's create another route. So in this case I need to read an ID again because I am going to update a specific post. Therefore I need to understand what sort of post that we are going to manipulate. So I will basically use ID to distinguish the post, but it is not post method, it is fetch method. So once that fetch method is invoked, it will call this function, which is update post, right? So in this update post, basically we have request params and request body all together, right? So I will simply log those stuff, then you can see how those stuff happen. So request.params.id, and the next thing is basically request.body. So now let's go to the postman again, and I will create a new request. So let's say update post. So now I need this thing. So let's say I'm going to update the third post, which is the latest post that I inserted, and I need the body as well. So body is somewhat similar like this, so I will simply copy it and go to body, row, JSON, but I will add a new title, let's say updated post, right? So now if I invoke this method, but it must be fetch method, and you can see we can log our ID and our a payload that is need to be updated, right? So I will cancel this request. Okay, so I don't need this stuff anymore. So the first thing we need to do is basically we need to check whether the post exists or not. Then second step is basically if it is not exist, then return error, but if it is exist, then update the post. The final step is basically save the updated post, right? So in order to check whether a post exists or not, we can have the same function over here. So I will simply copy these 3 lines and I will paste over here. So I will remove these comments and format the document. So this will basically check whether the post exists or not. So let's say we don't have a post with ID 5. So if I request this method, it will say post not found, right? So if the post is not exist, it returns error. So error is like this, right? But if it is exist, we need to update the post. So now this is the new function which we need to perform. Right, so basically what we have to do is we have to iterate through this entire array, and we need to check whether there is exist a post with this id, and if it is exist a post with that id, it must return an updated object back to this array. So this array will be updated, then that updated array can be saved as a JSON file. Right, so all you have to do is, let's create a new constant called updated post, and yeah, I need to iterate through this sample post, but in this functionality I will use map method, which is also a high order function. It is also equivalent to some sort of a loop, a for each loop or something like that. So I'm gonna iterate through all the items, and if I found an item with this id, it will basically return a new JSON object that has been populated with all the old values, but it updates title and the content, right? So the title is basically comes with request.body.title, and the content comes with request.body.content, right? Also the created at needs to be updated with the latest date, right? And if we found such an item, it will return it like this. In all the other cases, it will return the existing item, right? So it will populate this new array as updated post. So now let's log this array and check whether that is working correctly or not. So if I send that thing again, okay, I think we need to specify a valid id, so let's say 3, and if I send it back, okay, you can see the third post is now updated post. But if you look at our post.json, it still has that old object, right? Because we haven't saved anything. But you can see that updating procedure works. Okay, so third step is pretty much simple. So all I have to do is do the same thing like this. So I will copy that line and paste it over here. But this time we don't need to save sample post. Instead of that, we need to save updated post. And yeah, we can return updated post as well. But yeah, maybe let's simply return a message which says post is updated. Okay, now if I invoke, so I don't need this log, and if I invoke this method again, okay, now it says post is updated. And if I go back to post.json, yeah, if I go to post.json, it should be updated. Yeah, because it is saying post is updated. Okay, so let's send that thing again. Go to the post. Okay, it is not updating, so let me check. Okay, it happens simply because I have misspelled my old file as post.json, right? Because it is constructed new JSON file like this, so I remove that. the file name should be post.json. So it must be post.json, and if I executed it now, so let's say, okay, so now it is having this value, but if I execute this method again and go back to post.json, right, you can see now it has been updated like this. Okay, so pretty much simple. All we have changed was this updating method, and everything related to saving and checking whether the post exists or not, all as same as before, and updating is the new functionality that we have just added. Alright, so that's how patch method can be used to update a post, and in the next tutorial I will show you how to delete a post by using delete HTTP method.